Back live and inside the game, Nate Wangler alongside Ryan Glinsky in the voice of US Soccer, as well as the voice of Philadelphia Union, joining us here on episode 233, the fourth of our four interviews this week, the one, the only, the voice. That's JP Dellacamera here on Inside the Game. Welcome in.
Welcome, JP.
Thanks for having me. Battling a little bit of a cold, but we'll make this through. Thank you.
Oh, we appreciate the toughness.
Sometimes that's not always the worst thing. It gives you a little rasp to go with the voice, so it's sometimes it works out in your favor.
Sounds sexy, maybe. No.
Yeah. Hey, but we appreciate you stopping by. Obviously, A lot of energy building up for the 2026 World Cup. You've been a part of several of them throughout the years. I just wanted to start here, though. You began in the 70s. You're still at it here today. How have you been able to stay in this game for as long as you
have? I think part of it, guys, is luck. When you've done it for this long, you have to have some luck involved. It's been with different networks. Started with ESPN. Turner had one of them back in 1990. Then ESPN had a bunch. ESPN Radio, Fox. To last this long with this many networks, there has to be an element of luck involved. I'd like to think that I've developed my game as well over the years. Did the proper studying, research, prep, all that stuff to stay relevant, to keep me in the conversation. But I'd be lying if I didn't say there's definitely an element of luck to anyone who's a success in the broadcasting business.
JP, I was listening to an old interview from another soccer podcast, and it said that you kind of talked your way into the Detroit Express gig. One of your first soccer gigs.
Yeah.
How did you sell yourself as someone who hadn't done soccer yet, but you're trying to do a soccer game, maybe get a couple of extra reps in your off season or something? But how did you talk your way into something that you haven't done yet?
I wish I could remember how I found out about the job, because there was no internet back then. But it was WJR in Detroit, which was probably still is, a major station. Mm-hmm. And I saw that they were looking for a fill-in for the first two games. I had done some work with the Pennsylvania Stoners, American Soccer League, back in, I want to say 1980. I had done some work for them. So I had limited experience, but you have to remember, in those days, nobody had experience. So it was easier to talk my way in than someone might think. You could never do that today. Nobody could do that today. You know what I mean? There's so many young, talented announcers that are getting all kinds of experience in and on so many outlets that it would never happen. So again, there's the luck. Somebody took my call. Yeah. They were in a bind. They had no one. I sold myself, got hired, and that was one of the starts, I guess. One of the breaks in my career.
Would you say availability is the most important characteristic for a young broadcaster?
I'd say talent one.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd say talent one. Being able to do the research too. I don't want to put being a good person at number 3, because that should always be number 1 with all of us. But I think you have to show you're a team player and willing to work, because you are a team. When you're broadcasting, I would never want anyone to say after a game, you did great, but I didn't like your analyst. I take that as an insult, not a compliment. Because part of my job is to bring out the best in the analysts, to bring out the best in both of us, right? So you've all heard the expression, no I in team. I think that's especially true in broadcasting.
And growing up in Massachusetts, obviously there's a huge hockey culture out that way, but you took an opportunity in soccer, and obviously it's worked out for you really well. How did your background in hockey translate into your soccer broadcast? How did that help you in going over to a new sport?
It helped me immensely, because my first real break, even though we've talked about the outdoor soccer stuff with with Detroit. My first real break was indoor soccer with the Pittsburgh Spirit.
Mm.
And I looked at indoor soccer as hockey on grass. It was,
Yeah.
similar players, similar style. You dump the ball instead of the puck. There is offside. There's changing on the fly. There's all kinds of things. Power play, penalty kill. To me, it was the same game. And so my transition could not have been easier. I was also, again, the luck part. Made connections with coaches. Referees taught me so much about the indoor game.
Mm.
I still hear when I listen to broadcasters, people complain about the official closest to the play doesn't make the call. And it might just be, I know this from referees, it's their angle is not good. Just because you're closer to the play doesn't mean you have a better angle. In fact, you might have a worse angle. And those are some of the things that I learned in the early days just from having a rapport with referees.
Make sure the fans also hear that comment because fans are always complaining about that too.
Especially in indoor, right? Because there's,
Yeah.
same with hockey.
Yeah.
You're closer, in outdoor soccer, you've got the main referee who's going to really make all of the calls pretty much. And now you have VAR, so that kind of changes a lot of things.
JP, when I was 7 years old, the 2010 World Cup was being played in South Africa. And as a 7-year-old during the summer, you think everyone is like, oh, no school, everyone sleeps in. But I was a little different because at that time I've never watched pro soccer at that point, and I was just like mesmerized by this whole World Cup thing. And I didn't know any of the players. I didn't know anything, but I woke up every single morning at like 7 a.m. here in Michigan and watched every game the whole way. Explain to me what the environment of a World Cup is. Being there, calling the game, being a World Cup final. Like, what is it like to be in that environment? I've always wanted to know.
Wow. Any World Cup, or you're talking about South Africa?
Just any World Cup, anything.
South Africa was special because I was in the stadium for the last public appearance of Nelson Mandela. He was ill,
Wow.
very ill. He came to the game. He was in a golf cart, and he, with his driver, took a spin around the stadium. The applause was deafening. The love that you could feel for this man was incredible. You knew you were witnessing like a part of history, right? South Africa would have done better probably at that World Cup had they advanced. It's always better when the host nation goes farther. But I've been to World Cups. The atmosphere is really unlike anything else. Super Bowl, no. The closest thing I could say to a World Cup from just my own experience, Stanley Cup playoffs are amazing. You
Wow.
can't hear yourself think in those buildings.
Yeah.
I've never been to like an NBA final, but I've done Stanley Cup playoffs, and that's the closest thing to a noise level, I would say. I mean, Super Bowls are always big, and we may find out the same, at this next World Cup with the ticket prices being what they are. Super Bowls are now for the rich. They're really not for the average person, right?
Yeah.
So you don't get the same noise level that you would when an NFL team has a home field advantage. I don't know what this World Cup is going to be like because we don't know where fans are coming from. But I will tell you, despite those high prices, every seat's going to be taken.
Yeah.
Not going to be a problem filling the building.
Yeah. And you got to see the impact too of the last World Cup that came through the United States, and we had the chance to talk to Alexi Lalas earlier this week about being on that team and playing here in the U.S. And obviously, Major League Soccer was born from that. What do you see happening after the 26 World Cup? Do you see something else of the sort happening here in the U.S., some sort of other movement because of the World Cup coming here?
It's a great question because back then we had so much room to grow, like now you've got MLS 30 teams. Now you've got 16 teams in NWSL. USL is loaded with teams in different divisions. So I don't know what the next step is in that regard. It might be, you might see some growth with the USL with the Pro Rel and becoming a first division. Because I'm not sure how much bigger MLS can be. You know, is it more
Yeah.
teams? Do you merge with Mexico? You know, what comes next? But I would say this, what this World Cup will do, it will set all kinds of records for television viewership, you know, ratings, which tell us a lot. Social media numbers will be unprecedented. Advertising dollars like we've never seen before. So probably the next step is, where does all of that take us? Like, does somebody who sees what this World Cup has done now decide that they want to invest in an MLS team, the league, a television syndication, USL, NWSL, another league that we're not even thinking about, indoor soccer?
Yeah.
I'd love to see that, you know, personally, more of an investment in the indoor game. There's so many ways it can grow, but you know, in 1994, and Alexi would know this, we were not a soccer nation. We are now. There's no question about it. I would argue with anybody that says we're not a soccer nation. We are. We're also a basketball nation, football nation, baseball nation, hockey nation, right? That's different than in other countries. But make no mistake, we are a soccer nation. And we've grown so much since 94. And that was really without the benefit of the internet that we see today, without the benefit of social media that we see today. So this thing is going to reach levels that none of us ever dreamed of in 94.
JP, I heard you call this goal the $1 billion goal. Paul Caligiuri back in '89, his goal against Trinidad, which ultimately got us to the '90 World Cup. Why did you nickname it coin it the million or the $1 billion goal?
Well, I wish I had coined it that way years ago, but I hadn't thought about it. You know, I think back then it was the shot heard around the world because that's what I don't know if that was my line or I took it from somebody else, but that was the line back then. But somebody asked me, and I think it just came off the top of my head when they asked me to reflect on that goal and what it means. And I think I started the answer with, you know, I first called it the shot heard around the world. But then when I started to think about the impact, that we're still talking about that goal decades later, where would we have been had we not qualified for that World Cup? We still were going to host it in 94, but there would have been no momentum, no real talk of a pro league. I mean, FIFA wanted that, but, you know, would it have happened? I don't know. You know, nothing is guaranteed, I would say, right? So when you think about everything that's happened since that Caligiuri goal, from the enormous amount of money that Nike and other sponsors have put in, to MLS growing to, you know, the levels that they've reached now, and the new stadiums, the new training facilities, USL's development, NWSL, other leagues before that. I mean, this is all, Caligiuri started it. So it just came to me that, and $1 billion seemed right. It's not millions, you know, and it's probably several billion,
Yeah. You had obviously that
Thank you,
moment.
thank you, Paul. By the way, thanks, Paul.
Shout out, Paul.
Yeah.
You had that moment. You had Brianna Scurry's save, which was another legendary moment over on the U.S. women's national team side. I guess I'll put you on the spot here. What's your favorite World Cup moment, individual moment that you've had on air?
1999 Women's World Cup, Chastain's penalty kick goal.
Oh, wow.
It's funny when you think about that because, you know, Al Michaels' most famous call was, "Do you believe in miracles?" Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that call. I set the stage for what would happen if she converted her shot. So my greatest call ever was one word. It was goal, and I laid out. And everybody knew that they had won based on the way I had set it up and the fans' reaction and the players' reaction. But I say that that's the one that I remember the most because of what it did for the sport. You have to remember, this is 99. In 1998, our men's team, sorry, Alexi, finished last in France at the World Cup, right? So we're on a down cycle there, right? These women came through. They sold out stadiums. They set ratings records that were not touched again until 2015. Sponsorship records, appearances on national television. This was the biggest soccer event at the time in women's soccer history, women's sports, and our own soccer history. This was bigger. You know, it was bigger than the 1994 Men's World Cup. It was. More people watched it. You know, the numbers don't lie. So that's why I would have to say, for me, that's the number one memory for me. It's not the greatest game. It was one of them, even though it was, scoreless and it went to penalty kicks. But it may or may not have been the best game, may not have been the best goal call, may not have been the best whatever. But that's the one I remember the most.
Why do you think the U.S. women's national team is, been so dominant over the last couple of decades, compared to the men's team?
It's another good question. I would say, with no disrespect to the college game, I think that our colleges don't prepare our players as well for the men's pros and national team as the women do. So many men players at the collegiate level have not been able to make the jump to either MLS or the national team. But on the women's side, they make it. They make an impact right away. So I think for whatever reason, and subject to debate by way smarter people than me, like the coaches, but there's got to be something there, right? Why can our women adapt more easily to both the pro game and the international game, right? But I also think part of the thing that some people miss is that we started at the same time as everybody else.
Yep.
I want to say mid 80s. I can't recall. I didn't do it, but I can't recall the first game that the U.S. women played. But we had pretty much an equal start as everyone else, right? And our colleges back then, UNC was the dominating team. Now you've got maybe 10 really good colleges now, right? But back then, you could have probably had a national team based on just UNC. And there were several players on those first teams, if you remember, Ham, Lily, so many others. I don't want to say names, then you forget some. But I think that back then, the women started equal with everyone else. And then we started to get some of that Nike money that the men had, and we put more resources into it. And the reason why we're still great is because we continue to improve, we continue to elevate, we continue to spend more money. We're spending it on the younger girls now instead of just the women. And the reason why it's more competitive now is because other nations are doing the same. And when I did the 2023 Women's World Cup, when I was speaking to the Netherlands coach before a game with the U.S., he was making that statement. When I asked him, why is it so much more competitive now? And he said, before, he said, your guys, the U.S., had more coaches than anyone else, more medical training than anyone else, more practice time than anyone else. You guys had it all. He said, now we have the same thing that you have, the same heart monitors, the same extensive coaching staff. the same rehab stuff. He says, we have the same. There's no more advantage. And that's why the women's game today is so much more competitive. I mean, if Spain spent the money that they're spending now, they would have been this good years ago. But they didn't spend it,
Yeah.
you know? And you could make that claim of other nations as well. Look at what England does now. France, Germany has always been good. Norway was good. China was good. Then they stopped doing what made them successful. Now they need to get back to that level. But before, those were the two biggest rivals for the USA. They're not even in a top 10 now. If you asked who's the USA rival, those two countries never mentioned.
How impressed are you at the job that Emma Hayes has done since coming over to be with the U.S. women's national team?
She's fantastic. Great choice, as it turns out. No national team experience before that, but she did have the experience of coaching so many players who've played internationally. I think the big thing about Emma, so many big things, right? But her relationship with the players, the way she deals with the players, I think they know that she's the boss, but they also know that she's got them. You know, she's got their back. I think they not only like her, this is my observation, not only like her, but respect her. But she sees big picture and the little picture, right? The little picture is really today. Today's the little picture. They're not playing for anything, right? But soon they will be playing for something. They'll be playing for the next Women's World Cup and the next Olympics. And I like what she's doing because, you know, think of all the things that she's had to overcome. You know, the triple espresso went from 3 shots to 0, right? At one point.
Yeah.
Now we've got 1 shot of it, right? Macario and her injuries, right? So many other players have been in and out. Players have retired. But yet she mixes and matches. She finds time to give debuts to Claire Hutton, to Emma Sears, you know, the next rising stars among a group of rising stars. She's been amazing. She's developed up to a point where we used to be, where, I'm trying to remember who said it. I think it was Ali Krieger said it. 2019, I think it was World Cup, where she said we could have 2 teams here that would be
probably true,
capable of winning it. And I would make that argument today that we could have 2 teams, and our second team would be better than so many other countries in this world.
Probably.
That's fair.
It's so dominant.
She's gonna have a tough decisions to make come that Women's World Cup countdown, because I mean, if Triple Espresso is healthy, you know, they're all in, you know, and then you've got Macario, and you've got so many other rising stars. I mean, you guys know the names because they're playing now and they're scoring, you know, they're doing well. So
I had one more
present and a great future.
Absolutely. No, and I think she does a good job of managing all the personalities too, and I think they have really embraced her at the same time. It's good to be a player's coach, player's manager, because it really
means
get the
dance move down the first time, though.
Yeah, it's got to get the celebrations down. That's the big thing.
But see how she tried it? Like, she didn't want to do it the first time, right?
Yeah.
But
she practiced.
You know, she did it the second time. I think that goes a long way with players. Goes a long way with players when they see that you're willing to come out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and embrace it. I wanted to ask a quick question before we get to the end of this interview. We didn't talk a lot about your hockey background and what you've done in the NHL and in other places, but I am curious. Did you watch the U.S. and Sweden yesterday? What was your takeaway from Quinn Hughes and the OT winner?
I'm going to be honest with you guys. I was back and forth, so I didn't see the ending of it. I was between that. Right. I was between that and Champions League.
Ooh.
I am a big hockey guy. I did 5 years, 5 of the greatest years of my life. NHL, Atlanta Thrashers. I always wanted to be an NHL announcer, full disclosure. and here's the luck part again, because I was in minor league hockey for 10 years with people that you know, including Doc Emmerich, who might be the greatest of all time.
The best. The
Uh,
best.
I was in there with those guys and maybe 8 to 10 others who made it to the NHL, and I didn't. And I didn't want to keep waiting for that break. So I left it.
Mm.
I ended up, coming back and doing games in the old IHL and did some other fill-in work. And then in Atlanta, their announcer and his wife were trying to adopt a baby in China. And somebody that I knew, who I had done a World Cup with before in 1990, was now in charge of Turner. He calls me up. He says, I know you're a hockey person. Let me run this by you. We have an opening for 5 games. Would you like to do it? I probably said yes before he finished the question. I did the 5 games, and then I want to say 2 years later, maybe 3, he calls me again and he says, we're going to have an opening here. I can't guarantee anything, but I'll consider you if you want your name in the mix. And again, I said, sure. And I got it. So
Wow.
it's a lesson for every young person that I speak to. If you can continue your dream, if you can stay with it, don't give it up, because sometimes your dream may not happen right away or when you think it's going to happen, but it might happen when you least expect it. So I spent 10 years trying for an NHL job, came close to getting one. And then when I stopped trying, I got one. That's luck. Sorry,
Wow. That's awesome.
That's luck. That's luck.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great advice. But JP, last one. We ask everyone. We've had different answers all over the place.
France.
Oh, no, we're not talking about World Cup winners. Oh, we're not talking about.
Okay, sorry.
France saw the future.
France is a good guess, though. I will say that. But if you could go to any concert, see any band or artist that you would like, dead or alive, who would you go see?
I'd go see the Beatles again.
Again?
Saw them when I was a little kid. Yep.
I personally like the Rolling Stones a little bit better. I'm not gonna lie.
No, that's okay, but you're way younger, and I can understand that. But to me, Michael Jordan was the greatest basketball player of all time. Wayne Gretzky, greatest hockey player of all time. I like the GOATs, the originals, the OGs. Nothing like the Beatles. Nothing like the Beatles.
What do you think? What do you think about Motown? What do you think about the Temptations?
I always liked Temptations, Four Tops, Smokey Robinson. Motown was great, like back in the day. So yeah, no.
Okay,
love
the Temptations
Motown.
are my favorite band.
Awesome.
So
are they?
Yeah, they're my favorite band. That's when you don't have a choice on the stereo or the radio or the stereo aux cord in the car.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what your parents and family functions they play all the time, whether in the car or party. So that's how I like them.
If I didn't become a sports announcer, my fallback was I wanted to be a disc jockey.
Okay.
Because I loved music. And back in those days, I was a bit of a music nerd. I could name every band member. I can't do it today probably, but if you said Rolling Stones, I could name them all. If you said the Animals, name them all. Dave Clark 5, name them all. Whoever the band was, I was like a music nerd. But I thought sports would be a longer career and a more enjoyable career, and no regrets about that decision.
And clearly it's turned out well for you at the same time. We appreciate you stopping by, JP, and looking forward to maybe getting to chat in the future a little bit.
Guys, thanks for having me. I'm glad my voice made it through for 30 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Apologize for the cold, but almost back at it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sounded great.
Thank you so
JP.
much.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
See you.
That is JP Dellacamera here on Inside the Game. Wow, you talk about a wealth of knowledge, man. That's it's a lot of good stuff right there. I like his talking about his favorite moment too, and I didn't even think about the significance of the 1990 World Cup. I mean, we talk about 94 all the time and what that meant for the United States, but he's right. I mean, if we don't build any momentum from 1990, maybe that World Cup doesn't quite look the same in 94 as it did. So that's yeah, really, really good interview there with him.
Yeah, I would agree. Great broadcasting advice to anyone out there, you and I, or anyone else that's out there listening, wherever you are. Great advice, but no, also great soccer insight. And I don't think a lot of people realize that just even the outdoor game as well. Like, I feel like soccer and hockey are pretty similar. The only difference is the offside line is in one spot and the other one is wherever you really want it to be, based off VAR discussions and all that stuff. But no, I think it's very, very similar, I would say.
It's not goaltender, it's goalkeeper. The only one that I kind of left on the table was he is one of the only hockey announcers. He's known for saying goal for goals in the NHL. Most say score. I mean, that's
goal.
Typically what it is. Yeah. So for him, that's kind of that crossover. I mean, I say score during soccer and people think that's weird because I mean, it is generally you don't say that in the sport of soccer, but there's certainly a lot of familiarity, and the indoor game it pretty much is hockey. I mean, you just don't obviously have the checking or the fighting or any of that other stuff that goes on, but in terms of the chaos, yeah, it is pretty much exactly that. So